Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings for Friday, October the 27th. We do have a massive Friday night slate tonight, guys, 11 games, so I'm going to try and go quickly, but still give you guys a lot of information, talk through each one of these 11 games, go game by game, and just kind of give a breakdown of each team, what I do like, taking a first look at this slate on Thursday night. But as always, guys, before we do get started with the breakdown, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos, if they help you out, please hit that like button down below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel, be sure to check out the sponsor of this video, PrizePicks. So PrizePicks is a daily fantasy app similar to DraftKings and a lot of these other DFS apps, FanDuel. But on PrizePicks, you're playing against their projections. So you're not building out a lineup and entering contests and stuff like that. On PrizePicks, you're just picking more or less on a player's projection. And you can see some of the props they have posted for Friday night's games. Obviously, since I'm making this video on Thursday night, there's not like a ton of props on the board right now, but if you take a look at the board again on Friday afternoon, you'll see a ton of props, ton of different categories, and again, on PrizePicks, very simple. You just pick more or less on a player's projection. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 6 picks on PrizePicks, and you can win up to 25x your money. If you guys don't have an account on PrizePicks yet, sign up, make a deposit, and use that promo code NOAH. When you do make a deposit with that promo code, you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. And as always, I will be sharing some PrizePicks plays I like for today. I'll be making a separate video either later tonight or sometime on Friday, giving out some plays I like for this Friday slate. So if you guys want to check out that video, see some PrizePicks plays I like, it should be posted later. But let's go ahead and break down the slate for DFS. 11 games. My video for Wednesday's slate, I think it was 12 games, and my video for that slate was like 45 minutes long. So I'm going to try and go quicker than that. I'm going to try and keep this video within like 20-25 minutes. There's going to be some games we spend a little bit more time on. There's going to be some games that we definitely fly through. But let's go ahead and start off with the first game of the night, Denver and Memphis, and we'll take a look at the Denver side first. So with Denver on an 11-game slate, I think the only guys you're really considering on Denver are the starters. And for me on this slate, if I'm going to play anyone on Denver, it's probably going to be either Jokic or Murray. I don't see myself going to Aaron Gordon, MPJ, or KCP on an 11-game slate. But Jokic at 11.6, I think is a fine pay-up option. It's going to be tougher to pay up for him than it was on that 2-game slate. The salaries were a lot looser. The pricing was a lot softer on Tuesday's slate. Jokic was $10K on Tuesday. Now he's priced where he should be at $11,600, but I still think Jokic is in play here. And then Jamal Murray at $7,700, I have no issue going to either in tournaments. I don't think there's going to be any core plays coming from this Nuggets team, but for tournaments, you can definitely throw in some Jokic, throw in some Murray if you're playing a lot of lineups, and that's probably it from this Nuggets team. Now, on the other side with Memphis, I definitely like some of these Grizzlies guys again. Desmond Bane was much cheaper than he is today. He was $7,400 last slate. He's $8,600 today. I think at this price tag of $8,600, Bane is definitely not a priority play for me on this slate, but he's another guy that if I was playing a lot of lineups, I would sprinkle in because his upside is definitely a lot higher right now without John Morant. But Jaren Jackson Jr. I do like a lot. Now, Jaren Jackson Jr. was massive chalk on Wednesday's slate. He was really affordable. Did not have a great game. I think he finished with like 25 DraftKings points or something. I like going back to Jaren Jackson Jr. today. We know that without John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. does get a really big bump in usage. We've seen Jaren Jackson Jr. have a lot of good games in the past when John Morant has been out. The only thing you have to worry about with Triple J is just, can he stay out of foul trouble? That's always a concern. He did get into foul trouble last game, lost some minutes because of that. If he avoids foul trouble here, we know the upside this guy has, and at $7,400, he's not super expensive today. So he is definitely my favorite play on Memphis. Marcus Smart, I think, is a fine option. Like, he feels like a safe play. I don't think Marcus Smart has the highest ceiling, but he's good to give you like 30 DraftKings points, which at his salary is okay. Xavier Tillman in this matchup against Jokic with foul trouble risk guarding Jokic, I'll probably pass on Tillman here. There's really nothing else I like on Memphis today. Maybe you could take a shot on like Zaire Williams. I know he's cheap. He did start last game, but it's an 11-game slate. I have a feeling there's probably better value than that. So definitely favorite play on Memphis, and favorite play in this game, I would say, is probably Triple J. I like going back to Triple J today. But next game, Detroit-Charlotte. We'll start off on the Detroit side. So Detroit does get a pretty good matchup here against the Hornets. I think the Hornets are probably going to be a bad defensive team this year. With LaMelo Ball healthy, they're going to be a team that plays fast. This is going to be a matchup we want to target. Now, Cade Cunningham is pretty expensive. He's $8,800. He did have a really good opening night game against Miami in a tough matchup. I definitely think this is a good matchup for Cade Cunningham. But at his price tag of almost $9K, I don't think I'm super interested in Cade on this slate. I do like Jalen Duran or Jaren Duran. No, Jalen Duran. I don't know why I said Jaren Duran. Jalen Duran, I do like quite a bit on this slate. He's a guy that we've seen be really productive on a point per minute basis, and this is a really good matchup. This is a matchup we like to target. Charlotte was one of the best matchups for centers last season. I think that's probably going to be the case again this season. Durant, I think, had a double-double in his opening night game against Miami. That was a tough matchup. Obviously, much better matchup here. Definitely my favorite play on the Pistons is Jalen Duran or Duran. I don't know how you say his name. I don't know if it's Duran or Duran. I think it's Duran. But Jalen Duran, I do like a lot here. And then Azor Thompson, I like a lot as well. He started last game, got pretty good minutes, played 27 minutes, and I think he had almost 30 DraftKings points. His price tag's still affordable at $5,400. He's gonna start, for this Pistons team. I would assume, until maybe Bojan gets back. Maybe when Bojan comes back, maybe they'll move Azar to the bench. But while Azar is starting and playing 30 minutes a night, I think at $5,400 he looks really solid in a good matchup here. And I don't even mind, Isaiah Stewart or Killian Hayes for value. They both started last game. Stewart is cheap. It's a good matchup. He's someone you could definitely look to on this slate. I think he did have a double-double last game, played 35 minutes. He is firmly in play. And then Killian Hayes did start last game alongside Cade Cunningham. I don't know if he had the greatest game. I can't remember what his final box score was. But if Killian Hayes does start again, he is only $4,900. He is cheap. It's a good matchup. I think you can go there as well. Off the bench for Detroit, don't think I'm going to anyone off the bench here on an 11-game slate, but definitely, some of these starters I like quite a bit. This Detroit team, not a team that I typically am going to target a ton this season, I don't think, but on this slate specifically, I do like these Detroit guys quite a bit. Now, on the other side with Charlotte, it's tough to get excited about too many guys on Charlotte here, but there are a couple plays I have some interest in. Now, LaMelo Ball, we got a report that LaMelo is only going to be playing like 30 minutes, and he's going to have he supposedly had a minutes restriction in Wednesday's game. He played like 30 minutes. I don't know if they're going to keep LaMelo on a minutes restriction moving forward, or if that was just kind of like a one-time thing. At his price tag of $9,700, you need LaMelo to play 35, 36 minutes to be worth this price tag. I would only go there if we get like a report that he's good to go and play in full minutes. If he's limited to like 30 minutes again, it's really hard to consider LaMelo a good play at his price tag. Terry Rozier, I think, is priced appropriately. It's a good matchup. I think this Pistons team is going to be pretty bad defensively this year. But at $7,100, I'm not going out of my way to play Terry Rozier. PJ Washington, Gordon Hayward, they're fine options at their price tag. But I do like Mark Williams quite a bit. Mark Williams did start at center in their last game, and I think he's going to be the starting center for the Hornets, this entire season. And he played 30 minutes. He had a double-double, was productive. I think this matchup against Detroit is going to be a pretty decent matchup for centers this season. The price tag on Mark Williams didn't go up too much. I think last slate he was like $5,300. Today he's $5,800. I like both centers in this game, Duran and Mark Williams. Both these guys I think are pretty appealing at their price tags. Definitely my favorite play on the Hornets is Mark Williams. Nothing else, though, I'm interested in here. So let's move on to the next game, Miami and Boston. This is one I think we can just kind of fly through. There's really nothing that stands out here. Miami, we kind of know where the usage is going to go. We know who's going to get a lot of the production in this offense, but it's such a tough spot against Boston. Slow-paced, low-scoring game. This is just not a game that I really want to get much exposure to. If I was going to play anyone on Miami, I think my favorite play would probably be Tyler Hero at $6,600. I think that price tag looks pretty appealing here for Hero, but tough spot here. I don't see too much that stands out from Miami. And then on the Boston side, Boston, we did see Jason Tatum have a big opening night game. Kristaps Porzingis had a really good game. Tatum is $10,500. At that price tag, I'm not super interested in Tatum on this slate. Tatum's one of these guys that can just crush in any matchup, but on this slate, I won't be going out of my way to play him. Even though Porzingis had a really good game opening night, at $8,300, I don't have a ton of interest in Porzingis here. Same with Jaylen Brown at his price tag. Jrue Holiday is pretty affordable at $6,500, but Jrue Holiday had a really low usage rate. Like, he was not super involved in the offense. He was clearly the fourth option behind Tatum, Porzingis, and Jaylen Brown. Only had 10 field goal attempts, scored just 9 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. It was a pretty disappointing game from Jrue Holiday, but we know that Jrue Holiday typically has been a productive per-minute producer. He's going to play big minutes on a nightly basis with this Boston team. At $6,500, I think he's okay today. I'm not in love with Jrue Holiday on this slate, but that price tag still makes him somewhat in play to me, even in a tougher spot. And then Derek White at $5,500, I don't think I'm going to go to on this slate either. Nothing else stands out on Boston, so let's move on to the next game, the Knicks and the Hawks. Looking at the Knicks here, I do have some interest in these Knicks guys, specifically Randall and Brunson, just because we know the usage for the most part is going to be concentrated around those guys. We know this Knicks team is going to run a tight rotation. They're going to be playing their starters big minutes. Randall at 8,400. I think in this matchup against Atlanta can definitely have success here. This Atlanta team I don't think is going to be very good defensively. I think this is a spot that Julius Randle can definitely succeed in. We know he's going to play big minutes. At 8,400, I do have interest in Julius Randle here. And then Jalen Brunson at 7,500, I do have some interest in as well. I think this price tag on Brunson makes him a solid mid-range guard option. Outside of that, though, Barrett, Quickly, Robinson, Josh Hart, none of these other guys I have a ton of interest in, but Randle and Brunson I do like on this Knicks team. And on the other side with Atlanta, Trae Young, you got the narrative going up against the Knicks. I think Trae Young at 9,200 is okay on this slate. He's not someone, though, that I'm really going out of my way to play. I think Trae's just more of like a low-owned GBP option. DeJounte Murray's pretty affordable at 7,500. If I had to choose between one of DeJounte or Trae, I think given the savings, the $1,700 discount, I think I would rather play DeJounte between the two. Neither one of these Hawks guards, dying to play on this slate, but both are viable options. Clint Capella at 5,900 feels priced correctly. Tough spot against the Knicks, who are one of the tougher matchups for centers. Mitchell Robinson's a really good defender, so don't love the spot for Clint Capella. Saddiq Bey did start last game. I would assume he's going to start moving forward. He should play probably 25 to 30 minutes at 5K. He's an okay value play, but just another guy that I'm not excited about. And then Bogdan, Jalen Johnson, DeAndre Hunter on an 11-game slate, I'm not really considering these guys. So let's move on to the next game, OKC and Cleveland. On the OKC side, if we're looking at the starters here for OKC, you got SGA at 10,600, Giddey 7,400, Chet Holmgren 6,500, Jalen Williams 5,900, and then Lou Dort at 5,400. SGA, I know, had a pretty decent game opening night, had 31 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists. We know SGA is one of these guys that can put up huge games any night. This matchup against Cleveland, I don't love. Cleveland's a good defensive team. Cleveland plays at a really slow pace, but SGA is a fine tournament play at 10-6. Giddey at 7,400, I don't really have a ton of interest in. Same with Chet. I think Jalen Williams at 5,900 looks pretty solid here. We know Jalen Williams is a pretty good point per minute player, even playing with all these other guys, all these other starters. We've seen J-Dub still be productive. I want to say he had a decent game last game as well, for what it's worth. But 5,900 is pretty cheap for J-Dub. I think he's my second favorite play on OKC behind SGA. Those are really the only two guys I'm interested in, though. Nothing else stands out from this OKC team. And on the other side with Cleveland, if we're going to Cleveland here, we do need to talk about some injuries on this side. So Jared Allen is once again out for Cleveland, and Darius Garland is listed as questionable. Garland did play last game. I'm assuming he plays again today. If Garland is in, then I think Donovan Mitchell at 9,400 is just like a GBP option, nothing more than that. I would only be going to Mitchell, I think, at this price tag if Garland were to be ruled out. Evan Mobley, though, I do like quite a bit. So Evan Mobley was another massive chalk play last slate that busted. I'm fine going back to Evan Mobley here, though. 7,300 is not super expensive for him. We know he has more upside without Jared Allen. He did start at center last game, should start at center again. And I think against Chet Holmgren, kind of a skinny guy, this is definitely a spot where Evan Mobley could be able to dominate. So I do like Evan Mobley at 7,300. Garland at 7K, just, is fine, but I don't love him. Max Strus had a massive game last game. He was really surprising. Had 27 points, 12 rebounds. Huge game from Strus. DraftKings, though, did adjust his price up to 5,600. So I think at 5,600, I'll just let other people chase the Strus game from last game. Not saying that Strus can't have another good game here, but you're definitely overpaying for him on this slate. I don't think he's worth this salary. I don't think he's going to be a player that we see be priced in this upper 5K range for most of the season. I think most nights Strus is going to be below 5K. So 5,600, I think you're kind of overpaying for Strus after a good game last game. He could have another good game here, but I won't be going there. And the rest of Cleveland, I don't have any interest in. The only other guy I would consider here, if Darius Garland got ruled out, I think Karis LeVert at 4,900 would be a really good value. But like I said, Garland played last game, so I'm assuming he plays today. Let's move on to the next game, Houston and San Antonio. This is one I definitely have interest in. Two teams that I think are going to be fast-paced this year. Two teams defensively that I don't think are going to be that good either. On the Houston side, Fred VanVleet, 7,600. I know VanVleet had a pretty disappointing season debut for the Rockets, but I'm fine going to VanVleet here. VanVleet, I know, did play good minutes, 34 minutes, and that was in a blowout. He lost some minutes last game due to blowout. This is a good matchup against San Antonio. This is going to be a good matchup for guards, I think. It was a really good matchup for guards last year. And the price tag on VanVleet is pretty reasonable here, only 7.6. So definitely like VanVleet on this slate. I think Alperen Şengün at 7K looks pretty solid as well. Jalen Green at 6,300. I'm not in love with. I think he's probably a guy I'd be okay just passing off or passing away from. But Jabari Smith, I do like a lot. I like Jabari Smith a lot last slate. He was in massive foul trouble, played limited minutes. I think he's got a good chance to bounce back here in what should be a pretty favorable matchup against the Spurs. 5,300 for Jabari Smith, I think is definitely an underprice. I mean, I think this is going to be someone that we see be priced like in the 6K range for most of the season. I think we are getting a discount on him right now. I definitely like Jabari Smith on the slate. And then Dylan Brooks, the rest of these Houston guys, I don't have a ton of interest in, but Van Vliet, Şengün, Jabari Smith, I do like those three guys quite a bit. And on the other side with San Antonio, you got Victor Wembanyama, who's 8,100 on this slate. Price tag came down a little bit. He was 8,500 on Wednesday. He did deal with massive foul trouble last game. Didn't play full minutes. I'm expecting a bounce back game from Wembanyama here. And Wembanyama, even though he only played 23 minutes, he was still productive. Had 15 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. He did have a block, 2 steals. When he was playing in the preseason, he showed he could be a really good point per minute player. In limited minutes, he was putting up really good games. I expect him to play low 30s minutes, as long as he avoids foul trouble. And this should be a good matchup against Houston. Should be a fast-paced game. So really like Wembanyama on the slate. I like going back to him, even though he did deal with foul trouble last game. And then the rest of the Spurs, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, I think they're both priced correctly, but it is a good matchup here. I could see them having good games, but I'm fine, getting away from them at their price tags. Zach Collins, though, at 5,700, I think looks pretty solid here. Collins did have a pretty good game last game, played good minutes. I assume most nights you're going to see him play 30-plus minutes as long as he avoids foul trouble. So I think Zach Collins is in play today. And then I do like Jeremy Sohan a lot. So Jeremy Sohan did start at point guard last game, played 29 minutes, had 13 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Sohan is one of these guys that can do a little bit of everything when he's on the floor, can score, can rebound, can get assists. He's going to continue to start at point guard, and with him starting at point guard, he's got plenty of upside. He should definitely not be 5K. I think this is probably a guy that we're going to see be priced in like the 6K range or like the upper 5K range. I think we are getting a discount on Sohan right now, so I do like Sohan a lot. I think Wembanyama, Zach Collins, and Sohan all look like pretty good plays from this Spurs team. But that's it for that game. Moving on to the next one, Toronto and Chicago. So on Toronto here, there's some guys on Toronto that I think are in play. Pascal Siakam at 9,500 feels priced correctly. This matchup against Chicago's I think is okay. Siakam should have a big role this year with Van Vliet no longer on the team, but the price tag on Siakam feels correct today. He's not someone I'm really trying to jam into my lineups. Scotty Barnes, I think, is another guy that's going to have a big role this season without Fred Van Vliet, and he had a really good game last game, 17 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks, 2 steals, played 37 minutes. We know Scotty Barnes is going to play big minutes, even though Nick Nurse is no longer on the team. I think we can still expect big minutes on a nightly basis from Scotty Barnes. He's going to have the ball in his hands more without Van Vliet, probably going to pick up more usage, and very similar to Jeremy Sohan, Scotty Barnes is another one of these guys that can do everything when he's on the floor. So I think Scotty Barnes at 6,900 looks solid. OG, I'm not interested in. Dennis Schroeder, though, I think is in play as well. We saw Schroeder start at point guard in his debut with the Raptors, and it looks like he's going to be their starting point guard moving forward. And he was productive. Had 22 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds, did play 33 minutes. Price tag at 5,600 does feel about where it should be, but I still think Dennis Schroeder is a fine option here. And then Jakob Poeltl, minutes were not super high for Poeltl last game, but we know that Poeltl is one of these guys that can be very productive when he does get minutes, and the price tag at 5,300 is very reasonable. I definitely think at this price tag, Poeltl has plenty of upside to outperform this salary. So I don't mind Poeltl in GPPs. That's really it, though, for Toronto. Moving on to the other side with Chicago. If I'm playing anyone on Chicago here, it's probably one of the top 4 guys, DeRozan, Vooch, LaVine, or Kobe White. You're looking at the big 3, DeRozan, Vooch, and LaVine. They are all reasonably priced here, if not a little bit underpriced. I think all these guys should be like in the 8K range. I think DeRozan should be 8K. Vooch should be like 8K. So should LaVine. I think we're getting a discount on all these Bulls. Now, last slate, I played LaVine in my DraftKings lineup. He was terrible. I'm fine going back to him here, even though it's not the best matchup against Toronto. Vooch, I think at 7,200 looks solid as well. Like, these guys are underpriced. The usage in this Bulls offense is going to be dominated by these 3 guys. I would not be surprised if not 2 of these guys have a good game for their salary. Maybe they all 3 could have a good game for their salaries, but I probably wouldn't be playing more than 2 of them in the same lineup. But I do like the big 3 from Chicago here. And then I don't mind Kobe White for value either. Kobe White did start last game. It looks like he's going to start moving forward. Played over 30 minutes, was relatively productive. He's still cheap, 4,900, so I think he's in play for salary relief on this slate. And that's it for Chicago. That's it for that game. Let's move on to the next one, Brooklyn and Dallas. So if we're looking at Brooklyn here, we do have an injury to talk about today with Brooklyn, and that's Nick Claxton. Nick Claxton is out for this game. So we'll have to pay attention to the starting lineup. I'm assuming that Day'Ron Sharpe will start in place of Claxton. We'll have to see. Day'Ron Sharpe is a really good point per minute player. If Day'Ron Sharpe does start, I think at 3,300, he's going to be probably one of the best value plays on this slate. So I have a lot of interest in Day'Ron Sharpe if he starts without Claxton. And then the rest of the Dallas guys, Mikal Bridges, Spencer Dinwiddie, Ben Simmons. If I'm going to play one of these three guys, I think Ben Simmons is actually my favorite. We saw Ben Simmons not be terrible in their opening night game against Cleveland. He had only scored 4 points, but he did have 10 rebounds. He had 9 assists, and he did have some, I think, a couple defensive stats too. Now, he didn't play a ton of minutes. He only played 23 minutes, but I think most nights we can expect like 30 minutes from Ben Simmons and maybe more if he's playing really well. When they need offense, obviously Ben Simmons is not going to be the guy they go to, but he's a guy that can do, other things besides score. He can rebound, he can get assists. I mean, he's got triple-double upside. I mean, he would have had a triple-double last game if he got 6 more points and 1 more assist. So I don't mind Ben Simmons here at 6K. I think he's firmly in play on this slate. But that's probably it for Brooklyn. Mikal's fine. Dinwiddie, I don't have a ton of interest in. And then again, do like Day'Ron Sharpe for value if he starts. On the Dallas side, Luka and Kyrie, I think are both priced correctly today. Luka's 11,400. Kyrie is 9,600. Luka did have a big opening night game. I think he had a triple-double. He had 33 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists. Like Luka, I mean, he's one of the best fantasy basketball players. I mean, we know what Luka can do on a nightly basis. I think between him and Jokic, it's a coin flip between those guys pretty much most nights. This matchup against Dallas, I think, is one that Luka, he can have success in. Luka's definitely a fine pay-up option on the slate. It's going to be tough to get up to him, I think, because there's not a ton of great value right now, but I'm fine going to Luka. Kyrie, though, at 9,600, I'll pass on Kyrie here. Derek Lively, he came off the bench last game, so I don't really have any interest in him. Don't really have any interest in really anyone else on Dallas. I think if I'm going to play anyone on this Mavs team, it's probably going to be Luka. So that'll do it for that game. Next game, the Clippers and the Jazz. If we're looking at the Clippers today, I think we're probably just going to be considering one of the big three here, Paul George, Kawhi, or Westbrook. I don't see myself really going to any other Clippers on this slate. Paul George and Kawhi, where they're priced at, if I had to choose one of the two, I think I would rather go to Kawhi. On this slate, though, neither one stand out as core options or top plays for me. Russell Westbrook at 7,200, I don't mind here. Westbrook was okay in their opening night game against Portland. I want to say he did have a decent game, played pretty good minutes. I think Westbrook's going to be pretty fantasy relevant this season as long as his price tag remains like in the 7K, 6K range. At this price tag, I'm fine going to Westbrook here. Honestly, he's probably my favorite play on the Clippers, and I think this matchup against Utah is one that Westbrook can exploit. Utah is going to be a fast-paced team this year, I'd assume. I don't think defensively they're going to be that great of a team, so I do like Westbrook here. Probably my favorite play on the Clippers. On the other side with the Jazz, if we're looking to some Utah guys on the slate, at 9K, I don't have a ton of interest in Lauri Markkanen, but I do like the rest of these Utah guys, specifically Jordan Clarkson and Walker Kessler. Jordan Clarkson's only 6,200. We know Jordan Clarkson's going to have a big role on this team. Without Mike Conley, no longer on the team, you're going to see the ball in Clarkson's hands a lot. He's going to probably be second on the team in usage behind Lauri Markkanen. At 6,200, I definitely have interest in Jordan Clarkson today. And then Walker Kessler, I think at 5,500 looks really good. Now, Walker Kessler did only play 22 minutes last game, but I think most nights we can expect about 30 minutes from Walker Kessler. And last season, he showed he can be a good point per minute player. 5,500 is too cheap for Walker Kessler, in my opinion, so I do like him quite a bit. And then I do want to mention Talen Horton-Tucker just because he did start last game and was really productive. 26 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. He was super productive in the 31 minutes he played. 5,100 is too cheap for Talen Horton-Tucker if he continues to start, which I assume he will. Last season, I know it's different because last season, they were playing a lot of games without Lauri Markkanen and some other guys were out, but I mean, we saw this guy be priced like in the 8K range last season. I'm not saying he should be 8K, but I think he definitely should be 6K, 6,500. I think 5,100 is too cheap for THT when he's starting and playing 30-plus minutes. So I do like THT quite a bit at 5,100. And that's really it for Utah. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game. 2 more games to go over, guys. Golden State and Sacramento. So this is going to be a fun one to watch. On the Golden State side, there's a couple plays I do like on Golden State here. Should be a fast-paced, high-scoring game, so I think this is a game we're probably going to want to get some exposure to. Steph Curry at 9,300, I do like quite a bit as a pay-up option today. I think this is going to be a great game environment, a fast-paced game, and these are the type of games that Curry typically does well in. He's going to play big minutes as long as the game's competitive. He's going to dominate usage on this Warriors offense, and even with Chris Paul on the team, you're still going to see the ball in Steph Curry's hands a lot. I definitely like Curry at his price tag. And I do like Chris Paul at his price tag. Chris Paul was relatively productive in his season debut with the Warriors, had 14 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds, played 34 minutes. CP3, even at this point in his career, can still be a productive fantasy producer. He is one of these guys that can do a little bit of everything when he's on the floor. I think Chris Paul should be like 7K, 7,500. I think we're getting a discount on him right now. He should continue to start while Draymond's out. So I do like Chris Paul here. And I think both Andrew Wiggins and Kevon Looney look like solid options in the 5K range. Wiggins is just going to play a ton of minutes. I know he didn't close last game, but I think that's not something we can expect to happen. I think most nights you should see Wiggins out there in the closing lineup, and you should see him play over 30 minutes. 5,700 is definitely a little bit too cheap for Wiggins. And I think Kevon Looney's minutes should be pretty secure here without Draymond, especially in this matchup against Sabonis. They're going to want Looney's size out there against Sabonis. So I do like Looney a lot at 5,400. That's probably it, though. If you want to go to Jonathan Kuminga, I don't hate it. Without Draymond, you should see more minutes for Kuminga, and it seems like he's going to have a bigger role this season than he did last year. Kuminga's an okay value, but that's probably it for Golden State. On the Sacramento side, if I'm playing anyone on Sacramento today, it's probably going to be either one of Sabonis or Fox. At their price tags, I do prefer De'Aaron Fox. He's 1,500 less than Sabonis. I think it's a pretty good spot for De'Aaron Fox going up against Curry and CP3 and Clay. I mean, these are matchups that Fox can exploit, and we saw Fox be great in this series against Golden State in the postseason last year. We know he's going to play big minutes. It's a good matchup. It's a fast-paced game. It's a good game environment. I like De'Aaron Fox quite a bit on this slate. He's definitely my favorite play on Sacramento. Not really in love with anyone else on the Kings, though. I'll probably just pass on the rest of these guys. And then moving on to the last game of the night, Orlando and Portland. On the Orlando side today, it's a really good matchup. I think Portland is probably going to be the worst defensive team in the league this year. I think targeting Portland is going to be something we want to do. At the price tags, though, of these Orlando guys, I don't really love a ton from this team, but I think probably my favorite play would either be Franz Wagner or Wendell Carter Jr. I think Wendell Carter Jr. at 6K, I do like here in this matchup against Portland. Again, I think it's going to be a really good matchup. Carter should be in line for 30-plus minutes on a nightly basis as long as he avoids foul trouble. I don't mind targeting these Orlando guys because the matchup is so good. At their price tags, though, my favorite play here is definitely Wendell Carter. And then on the other side with Portland, I think Anthony Simons, he's probable today, so he's expected to play. Look, we know Anthony Simons is going to have a big role without Damian Lillard, and at 6,400, I think that's definitely too cheap for Simons here. This is a game against Orlando that should be competitive. I know last game against the Clippers was a blowout. Simons didn't even get full minutes. But in this game, we should see Simons play full minutes because it is a game that should be close against another bad team. So I like Anthony Simons a lot at his price tag. Ayton, Jeremy Grant, at their price tags, I don't have a ton of interest in. Scoot Henderson was terrible in his debut. He had a lot of turnovers. He did play a ton of minutes, though, and he did get blowout run as well, which I think is kind of important. Scoot was out there even in the blowout, so I think his minutes are very safe. I think the Blazers are going to play him a ton of minutes every night. They just want to see what they have in him. He played 36 minutes even in a blowout last game. I expect him to be more productive in a better matchup here against Orlando. If I had to choose between one of Anthony Simons or Scoot, I'd rather go to Anthony Simons, but I think Scoot in tournaments at 5,900 is playable. I'm not really interested in anyone else on Portland, though. I know Malcolm Brogdon had a good game off the bench. He did it in 23 minutes. Look, Brogdon's probably going to play like low 20s minutes on a nightly basis for this Portland team. I think he will be productive when he's on the floor, but at his price tag, I'm not super interested in Malcolm Brogdon. I think that's it for Portland, guys, and I think that's it for this 11-game slate. Looks like we were able to keep this video under 30 minutes, which I think is definitely a record for me. Typically, I go long on these big slates, but I try to go quick, still give you guys a lot of information, though. Hopefully, you guys did enjoy this video. As always, I appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit that like button if you guys enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And be sure to go check out PrizePicks, sponsor of the video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks. You can use my promo code NOAH. When you do sign up, you will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code. Check them out if you have not yet. But that's all that I got for tonight, guys. Good luck on this big Friday night slate. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.